On the night of the 13th of May, 1839, a group of men descends on this small village in Carmarthenshire. It's called Wen. They're armed with axes and sledgehammers and big sticks, and they destroy the new toll gate that's just been installed. Then they move on to the toll house and burn it down.
The attack at Wen is just the beginning of an underground movement of protest that sweeps across West Wales. Poverty-stricken farmers are angry that new private companies, the turnpike trusts, are charging too much to use the roads. There'll be more than 200 attacks on toll gates over the next 5 years.
Just imagine the lot of the tenant farmer here in West Wales in the early 19th century, paying shockingly high rents to the landowners, paying a tax to the Church of England, a church he doesn't even attend as a chapel goer, paying more taxes to build workhouses, which are prisons for the poor, and then on top of all of that, to get his produce from A to B, he needs to pay a toll to use the roads. Those toll gates are run by some pretty greedy and unprincipled people. Is it any surprise that the tenant farmer resorts to violence?
For the second attack, the farmers adopt what seems to be a bizarre tactic. They dress up in skirts and in aprons and even in bonnets. And then they blacken their faces. After this, they descend on the now rebuilt toll house at Wen and chant a woman's name, Rebbecca. They demolish the toll gate and disappear into the night. Their distinctive guerrilla-style attacks will come to be known as the Rebbecca Riots. The costumes the farmers use are a symbol based on local folklore.
There's one ritual which tells us a lot about local tradition in this part of Wales. It's a humiliation, a form of punishment for wrongdoers. For example, men who beat their wives. They're tied to a wooden chair. Sometimes it's a wooden horse, and then they're paraded in front of the community. And the men dispensing this justice, for reasons we don't quite understand, have blackened faces and they wear women's clothes.
By dressing up, the rioters attacking the toll gates evoke a sense of local justice, and it becomes a potent symbol in Welsh history. But who is Rebbecca? And where does she come from?
It could be that one of the leading protesters has a close relative or friend called Rebbecca. That's always possible. But I think there's a more likely explanation. And the clue is here, in the Bible. We are talking about people who know their Bible inside out. There is a passage in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, and it says this: "And they blessed Rebbecca, and said unto her, Thou art our sister. Be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gates of those which hate them." So could this Rebbecca be the one who inspires the rioters?
May Rebbecca's descendants conquer the property of their enemies. It is the sentiment of an oppressed peasantry. Over the months, a hidden wave of support grows through the parishes of West Wales. There are several Rebbeccas, riot leaders whose identity is unknown. For 3 years, they elude the military and the London police. As the riots spread, it's believed that even some of the local gentry support the cause. They target other symbols of oppression, workhouses where the poor and infirm are badly treated. On the 19th of June 1843, the protests reach a bold climax.
And this is the scene of the biggest disturbance of that time. It involves 2,000 people. It takes place in broad daylight, and they converge on this place. This is the Penlan Workhouse in Carmarthen. It is full of the most unfortunate members of society. The protest, which is all about genuine grievances, is hijacked by some rather unsavoury characters. And suddenly, it all turns rather nasty.
It is the violence of this protest and the clash with the authorities that brings the plight of the tenant farmers to the attention of the London press. This is the turning point for the Rebbecca Riots.
By the autumn of 1843, there are police and soldiers roaming the countryside, and at last, the government acknowledges that the rioters have legitimate concerns. A commission is set up to look into these turnpike trusts. And guess what? They uncover malpractice and corruption. So those trusts are reformed and the roads are improved.
Ultimately, the Rebbecca Riots are a victory. The authorities struggle to track down the riot leaders. The few that are caught face hanging or transportation to the other side of the world.
So what does Rebbecca represent? The terror that stalks this countryside is unavoidable. When you have profound injustice and no lawful means of tackling it, you get an explosion of people power. And for me, the Rebbecca Riots are all about self-respect. Welsh people refusing to tolerate blatant abuse and demanding their share of justice and fair play.